I can't believe I'm doing this. It's flipping 1:18 in the morning. And I got to be to work like 7 hours. And I hardly get any time to do the things that I want to do, like catch up on The Walking Dead. So this is my time to do it. Put the wife to sleep, if you know what I mean. Snuck out of the bed. And my phone is buzzing because this goddamn dark keeps going on about this crazy stuff. Hold on, let me tweet this out, because in case he wants to join or whatever, or we could just conversate about this at a later time. I'm gonna recap what I'm gonna recap right now, just so there's no mysteries for anybody that's trying to follow this saga. There's no mysteries, and then I'm going back to watching my Walking Dead. At least try to get 2 more episodes in. All right, let's do this, because I do want to put up live here. Let's do. People will be like, what the hell? Why are y'all doing all this? Come on. I will say this though, that I do agree with Doc that this conversation would be good to have in a playlist or whatever. That's cool, but I think for it to make sense, to make sure nobody's talking past each other, we got to do this person to person. Here, let me do this, because he put this up here. Hold on, where's my notifications? There they go. I want to respond to copy that, put that up. And then what we'll do, why all these bots? Elon, you goober. Can you do something about these bots, Elon? Jesus Christ. As soon as I go live, there's these ridiculous sex deranged bots that go live too, or that go like my tweets. All right, so we got that up there. What else are we going to put up here? We're going to put oh Jesus Christ, I can't even think straight. Oh yeah, there was a snippet of my one video where me and him had dialogue in there. I definitely want to play that. View your channel. Okay, so where is my let's see your videos. Doc, if you listen, he probably gonna sue me for the pictures. I got a bunch of them. I do my bro no justice. Yeah, I'm a jerk like that. Okay, here we go. Yep, here we go. All right, I'm just simply going to address the latest round of comments, because I don't want there to be any confusion, because I think between all the videos that we put out here and then the things that we're saying back and forth, people can get confused, and they can also say, hey, what are you guys actually arguing about? And I'm going to put it on my brother Doc. He's doing a great job of pivoting and changing it here and there. I'm going to say this first. And again, this is all in jest. This is all in fun. Doc is the homie. If you guys don't know our background, I met Doc through just watching one of his videos. Matter of fact, I had the flu. I had the flu and a tooth infection. I think I told you guys the story before, and I couldn't move. I felt like I was on the brink of death. We got the Winter Soldier in the house. What's going on? I thought I was on the brink of death. And I'm just sitting there looking at my phone, you know, seeing what's on Twitter, and I see Doc. The first time I ever seen him before, never seen dude before. And he was talking about how he was into cloud gaming and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. You know, because I was doing my Stadia thing at the time. He had mentioned something about Stadia, and from his understanding, Stadia wasn't that good. I said, oh, as soon as I get over this flu and this toothache, or this tooth infection, I'm going to have to show my brother something. Hit him up. Was like, yo, I'm watching your content, man. I really think it's awesome. Hey, by the way, I heard you say this about Stadia. How about I do content on Stadia. I want to send you some stuff. How about you check it out and then you give your honest opinion? And he was like, okay, I'm gonna give my honest opinion, but if this thing is as bad as I've been hearing, you know, I don't know what this is going to do for your content, because I'm gonna rip it in half. I'm not going to cap. I said, bro, that's exactly what we need you to do. And when I say we, I didn't mean it like I'm an employee for Google. I'm a tech enthusiast. So when I like something, as long as it keeps the major components that made me like it, I want it to be successful. So the thing that I like stays around. I think that's the activity of a lot of consumers. And I think that's why we get so emotional when people say something about our favorite piece of plastic. We want it to stay around, and when we see negative connotations about it out there in the fields, then we start, you know, taking it personal, getting upset because we don't want that thing to go away. So I said, but I'm a realist about it. If you don't like it, it don't matter if I like it. If I like it, but 20,000 people can't stand it, it's not going anywhere. So I said, what you need, and I had, at that time, I had multiple conversations with Google. To be honest with you, the people that I was talking to at Google, by that point in time, they had stopped talking to me. They kind of like left me alone. It was only because of another content creator. I won't say their name because I don't want to, you know, I don't know if they still in contact with these people. But another content creator kind of put me back in their good graces a little bit, brought me onto their platform, had a show, and then I was, you know, I kind of was in the good graces, and then I started getting all these slow leaks because of that. But anyway, yeah, they had stopped talking to me, and I knew it was like stubborn bullheadedness. And I said, you guys need to not take this stuff so personally. Like this is the gaming community, and you got to listen to the gaming community if you want to see success. So my response was, I always take things in my own hands. Unbeknownst to them, I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start just randomly, you know, buying Stadia kits for people, have them play them, and then have them tell them to say what they like and what they don't like. Because this is what Stadia should have been doing. Like if I was a product manager, I would go into a mall, right? I would give somebody 2 different controllers and kind of like mask what, you know, what they were, remove logos, and have them play a game on one screen, have them play a game like on Xbox or PlayStation 4 or something like that, and on another screen have them play on Stadia. And then while they're in that mall by a GameStop or something, I would say which one played better. And I'm telling you, if they didn't know what they were playing on, particularly when it came to PlayStation 4 and Xbox, 9 times out of 10 they would have picked Stadia, because Stadia was giving you 4K 60 around that time, versus you might have got a sharper image with Xbox. Especially if you had an Xbox One X, you may have got a sharper image, but you were getting a consistent 60 with Stadia, and frames help the image. So people, I think a lot more people would have said, you know what, I like that gameplay better, because even though that one was sharper, this one felt smoother. Especially dealing with the Fortnite generation, I would have done stuff like that. They were just tone deaf to it. A lot of, and when I say Stadia, I don't mean the core Stadia people, because they were underfunded. I mean Google. The Google people that were in charge of giving the Stadia people what they need were underfunded. They, the Google people didn't fund them correctly. So I just took it upon myself to say, well, we're just going to do what they should be doing. And that's how I came across Doc. Doc got the platform. He loved it. And then the rest is history. And then we've done a couple podcasts together, debated. It was a great show called The Commission. I've always wanted to bring it back, but our schedules, everybody's schedules didn't align. And then now Doc is doing his thing. I'm back doing mainstream gaming. And now we've come upon this, where I think it is entertaining. But this is like part of the thing that I talk about the most, that gamers don't understand the business side. And Doc thinks that I don't know if Doc thinks that I'm singling him out. I don't know if his audience thinks I'm singling him out. But if you guys think that, no, Me and Cold Blood go back and forth. I mean, Will Sinks is in the chat. He'll tell you. Me and Cold Blood go back and forth all the time about this. We got to understand the business. Cold Blood, shut the fuck up, Moss. We don't care about the business. Well, when Sony pursues Concord and it's a flop and it has ramifications, that's the business. So you got to understand it. So it's not me targeting Doc. I will target anybody that does not portray the decisions being made about the business right, because we have to stop being the most ignorant tech consumers out there. Gamers are considered the most ignorant tech consumers out there. All we want to do is plug something in something and play it and not understand how the funding works or any of that. You go talk to Pixel fans or consumers, Apple, whatever. They understand the business. We don't. So anywhere where I see there's a gap in understanding the business, here I come. Now, what does I got to do with me and Dogs back and forth? Okay. Let me see if I can find the infamous tweet. Where's my tweet at? Nintendo is my company. Let's not say it's Purple. Shout out to Purple Haze. She said, "Don't mess with my company." I got you, Perp. Let's see here. Okay, all right. I want to find this infamous tweet of mine that has been stretched every which way when it shouldn't be. Okay. Really, in this tweet, even though this started the back and forth, it's the least symptomatic thing of this discussion as far as I'm concerned. And I'm gonna break it down why. All right, so here goes the tweet. I'll put it up on the screen. The tweet is, here's what started everything. I put this out here. I said, hold on. I thought Xbox games were going to save PlayStation. With Indiana Jones charting 14th, its debut month this spring, we know who's going to save who. All right. Why did you put this tweet out? I put the tweet out because there is rhetoric out there, and our good friend Doc has, he hasn't said it to me, but he said it out there. So it was a shot across the bow to anybody that has been sharing this rhetoric. And quite honestly, he came to mind when I put this out there too, amongst many, that this rhetoric that Xbox games are going to save PlayStation is a farce. Why? Because if Xbox games, well, number one, the farce starts at PlayStation being in trouble. Now, if you follow this channel, and Will Sinks knows, we don't just kick Xbox's back in. We kick in PlayStation's back. I'm not even going to. Will Sink, that's in the chat, if you feel like responding. Who are the two main people we attack constantly on this channel from PlayStation? Who are the two main, anybody who wants to get it first? Who are the two main people on PlayStation that we kick their back in almost as much as Phil Spencer now? I don't even deal with Phil Spencer. I feel like he's been a failure as a leader. He has been very consequential to, in a negative way, to Xbox, and this is all on his shoulders. He had an opportunity to stop Satya from turning Xbox into a third-party publisher, under Matt Booty, with him and Matt Booty. He failed at it. He's the one that ripped my precious Xbox from the jaws of victory. That's the way I look at it. So I've been there, done that with Phil Spencer. But there's two people at PlayStation I'm kicking their backs in because now they're doing stupid stuff. So this isn't a channel. Yo, what's up, KC? He said me. No, we love you, KC. But there are two people at PlayStation who we kick in their backs regularly. I don't know if. Thank you. Well, no. You got one right. It's Herman Holst and Hiroki Totoki. He said, Herman Holst and Hiroki Totoki. Jim Ryan, we criticize him, but he's gone now. We say Jim Ryan was in a panic. That's why they pursued these games as a strategy, and that's the point that I've been making. That the games the live service strategy, the way that it's been hastily approached, yes, from the outside looking in, it would look like, oh my God, the sky is on fire. No. What happened was Jim Ryan went into a complete panic. Why? Because number one, this is how everything happened. This is all about the business. This channel is all about the business. When I say business, when I talk about money, and when I say, yeah, you know, this tweet is about business, I'm talking about money, everything correlating to business. This is what we talk about all the time. All the time. Number one, Jim Ryan and the rest of the Sony board saw that Sony lost $20 billion in stock evaluation the moment ABK was announced. Now that correlates to market more than money, but it involves money because it involves how lucrative Sony looks to the market. And if Sony doesn't look lucrative to the market, they don't get investors. And they can't raise capital the way that they want to. So it doesn't mean that they're dying. Doesn't mean that they're dead. Doesn't mean that the sky's on fire. But it means that it slows them down. There's a difference between being caught in quicksand and being caught in a little bit of tar. If you're caught in a little bit of tar, it's extremely inconvenient. Yeah, it's going to mess up your shoes. You might have to get out of your clothes, but you can keep moving. You get caught in quicksand, then your ass is grass. Sony wasn't caught in quicksand. They stepped into some tar. All right. Why? Because they lost $20 billion in stock evaluation, but Jim Ryan didn't panic when the rest of the Sony board panicked. Why didn't he panic? Because he felt like he looked at what Satya was trying to do. He could kind of feel in the air that Xbox was moving more towards multi-plat pursuits. He even says that in the FTC trial. So that's why I go back with my brother Doc Dark and say, why are you're caveating certain things from the FTC trial and you're misappropriating what's being said? If you pay attention to the FTC trial and follow everything in chronological order, he could feel in the air what Xbox was leaning to do. He didn't realize there was an internal war going on at Xbox that we've talked about before everybody else. Will Sink can vouch for that there was an internal war in Xbox between what Satya wanted to do, which was just publish software, and Phil Spencer's dire desire to still compete with PlayStation. See, Satya didn't consider PlayStation even a competitor. Remember that deal that he tried to do with Ken Sarai or whoever led Sony with the microchips and all that other stuff and cloud gaming? He wanted to make Sony a partner. He's always wanted to make Sony a partner. Phil Spencer is the one that convinced him, let's make him a competitor. And he said, okay, Phil, I like this Phil guy. We'll listen to him. Phil sent him emails talking about, yeah, we have a competing console and our console is going to be better than theirs. Phil was getting him gassed up because Phil is his console guy. Even though all Phil simply did was follow his game plan. Don't spend a whole bunch of money. Let's get Minecraft. Let's build PlayFab. Let's get Havoc. And we're going to sell controllers. Anybody could have done that. Anybody in the chat could have done that. But because Phil did it and did it Satya's way and didn't complain, Xbox for the first time got out of the red and was in the black. We've talked about that here as well before anybody else. That's why Satya felt comfortable in starting to write blank checks to Phil. Well, this Phil guy, he did exactly what I asked him. And look where we are. And he didn't fight me like everybody else would have. And he trusted him. You need more studios? Great, fine, fantastic. Go, yeah. Start writing them, and that's where you started getting some of those legacy purchases that, with Compulsion, that first wave, they built the Initiative, Compulsion, all that stuff. Then Satya ran into a pitfall with Minecraft still had elements on AWS. They still had elements elsewhere. That hurt Satya because Satya and Azure was close to closing the gap between them and AWS, but they couldn't because why? In large part due to Minecraft still being on AWS. Satya wasn't looked at as the golden child anymore because there's a group of mystery investors that are waiting. They've plugged all their money into Microsoft because they're waiting for the day for Microsoft to outperform AWS, for Azure to outperform AWS so they can hit the payload. And when Satya still had Minecraft on AWS servers, that group, among others, ridiculed him. Satya went ham. That's when he closed Mixer. That's when he sent Phil out there talking about all of a sudden Facebook, Amazon, and Google. That's when in the same year they bought Bethesda and they shut down the Orion project that Bethesda was working on with Google Stadia that was being rumored to be part of their 8K 120 implementation. And he did more stuff. Satya went on a rampage. And if you connect the business dots as well, that leads to the purchase of ABK. Why would he spend $80 billion for gaming? No. ABK had the power to swing. Not only did they have the mobile stuff that he desired, but more importantly, they had the power to swing the pendulum in the cloud space because of Call of Duty. Whoever owns Call of Duty, if it's a cloud provider, wins cloud gaming. Oh, MM2K, that's a farce. Then explain to me why PlayStation wasn't able to stop or put brakes on the ABK deal, but cloud gaming was. That's why it was. So all this relates to the business. Okay? So my tweet about this is relating to the business, to the money. How is Xbox, with a game that generates this low activity? It came in and started at 14th in its launch month when there were no other real big retail. I'm not talking about games and service, but retail, AAA games at being sold at $70. Normally those games, because they're $70, they will chart higher. We've had Gears, we've had Starfield, we had Forza games. We even had State of Decay 2. Will Sinks remember this. Remember, State of Decay 2 came out the month or 2 weeks. It came out a month after the juggernaut God of War and beat God of War the month it came out. God of War was number 2 the month that State of Decay came out, and State of Decay launched in Game Pass. And State of Decay only launched on Xbox consoles and Windows PC. We know Windows PC has no pool. And it was number 1. So all this bullpucky about, oh, these games don't chart unless that again, bullpucky. So the purpose of this was to say, this game underperformed versus its peers. This is an Indiana Jones game. There was a lot of hype about this game. We've just had Stalker 2 that I believe charted higher than this, that launched in Game Pass day and date, and it was on Steam as well. There's no litmus out there that really shows that Indiana Jones had any success that pulled any weight. I don't even hear Xbox people talking about it. So if the argument is, and again, if the argument is plural, Xbox games, not Call of Duty, Xbox games are saving PlayStation, and you're hearing people argue, oh, see, you're more excited about South of Midnight and these Xbox games that haven't released yet. How can you argue that I can't talk about Indiana Jones if it ain't released on PlayStation, but you're already surmising that these Xbox games that are not games as a service, that are not live service, they're just regular single player games, them coming to PlayStation are going to save PlayStation, but at the same time, they're going to kill PlayStation. I don't think that's a challenging argument. That's not a contradictory argument. Now, I would understand if the argument was Xbox Live Service or Xbox's Call of Duty game is saving PlayStation, even though that still can be debunked. But that's more of a whatever, you know what I'm saying, type of argument. But there's no proof in the pudding that Xbox games, plural, are saving or going to save PlayStation. Again, number one, you got to believe PlayStation is in trouble. And if you think PlayStation is in trouble because of their live service push, you don't understand why they're doing it. They pursued it because Jim Ryan panicked. He panicked out of the fear of, hey, Xbox ain't going to try to make these exclusive. Then Phil Spencer played hardball with him, and then he realized, oh, hold on. I just told the board they weren't going to make these exclusive, and they're trying to. Oh my God, we're in deep doo-doo. And he scrambled, bought Firewalk, bought Bungie. We've been over the chronological order of this stuff here on this channel. Now, Jim Ryan's gone. And there's no need to panic because we know it. Xbox is not going anywhere. They're going to be on PlayStation because looking at the financials, Satya Nadella and Amy Hood, they realize that they need PlayStation. God damn it, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, 86% of its sales were on PlayStation. Oh, it was on Game Pass on these other places. Well, look, there's not a whole bunch of Xboxes out there that really will give you something to clap like a baby still about as far as Game Pass activity on Xbox. So what was the Game Pass activity on PC? Let's get those numbers, because we got constant numbers over Starfield, right? So that's a symbiotic relationship. You can't have 86% of your sales on PlayStation and then don't say PlayStation isn't as important to Call of Duty as Call of Duty is to PlayStation. Yeah, I mean, or I would argue because PlayStation has other games there. That, yes, if they lose Call of Duty, that's a big blow. They could survive it, but they'll lose $20 billion in stock evaluation. And they'll have a hard time recovering. That's what Jim Ryan was referring to in the FTC trial. He said we could never recover from that, meaning we couldn't recover that loss. You got to understand the business lingo. He wasn't saying PlayStation couldn't recover as a business. He's saying we could never recover from that financial loss. Meaning we could never bring, if that money that we lost, you're going to be hard pressed to find anybody else or anything else that can create the type of revenue that Call of Duty creates on PlayStation. But here's what I will tell you. If they did yank Call of Duty off of PlayStation, they're not getting that activity on Xbox. Those people in totality are not flocking to Xbox. Satya knows that. Why do I say Satya knows that? Because after the FTC trial, guess what happened? Jim Ryan had said, I'm not signing this, all during the FTC trial. And he was told to fly a kite into a thunderstorm by the regulators. The regulators already made a judgment that we should not be holding this deal because of PlayStation. Microsoft has no obligation to PlayStation. And we don't really feel like there's a big risk. That was without Sony signing a 10-year deal. Microsoft could have very easily waited that portion out, as a lot of you thought they were going to do, right? And give them a 4-year deal or a 3-year. They very easily could have done that. But as we find out from, and you've heard this from people like Tim and others that were close to Microsoft and various sources, they looked over the financials. And they said, no, we can't pull this away from PlayStation. And after Phil's plan to go exclusive with content didn't yield the results that were satisfactory to Satya and Nadella, that was out of the window. So Call of Duty going exclusive to Xbox was not a threat. Here's why they still pursued. Hiroki Totoki came into power, and I don't like Hiroki Totoki. Will Sinks can tell you that. I think he is a detriment to PlayStation. If there's anything that's a detriment to PlayStation, it's not people playing other games on the platform. It's Hiroki Totoki and Herman Holst. We never said that PlayStation was perfect. If you listen to this platform and listen to the facts, you'll understand what the real threats are instead of these false threats. The false threat is not the business running as usual, people buying games on PlayStation. No, that's not the threat. The true threat is Hiroki Totoki and Herman Holst. The decisions made by those two are really putting PlayStation in a bind. And they got nothing to do with buying games, saving it. No. Or buying PlayStation games, saving it. No. It is the decisions that they're using the brand. They're pimping off the brand. They're doing things with PC, just strategies that are horrific. Releasing greenlighting games that shouldn't be greenlit. It's just bad from their end. They are the biggest threat. And even with them, because I know how PlayStation is built, if what they do is too horrible, the way PlayStation operates, they just toss them to a side and they bring the next person in. They don't build around people too much. They give them an opportunity. If they fail, you get flicked. So I don't think PlayStation is bad. I mean, I don't think PlayStation is in danger, but they're doing some very bad things that could be harmful to the PlayStation brand. That can knock some polish off. Doesn't mean it's going to die because the way PlayStation is established, but it's bad. That's the biggest threat to PlayStation now. It's no longer ABK, but that's why they pursued the games as a service. If you look at the chronological order of things, everything was done. They borrowed money. Shout out to Winter Soldier says, do you think the need to pay back to ABK and some lit a fire under Xbox to get those studios off their asses and finally put their shit out? I think that was part of it, Will. I think part of it was, Xbox, they paid $75 billion by the time everything was said and done. Satya looked at Starfield. Look, Starfield had a blazing month. But the simple fact that they went, and this is what was the catalyst to really them going full multiplat. They had already had SDKs, as we know, and behind frosted windows. But the driver of them going fully multiplat was Starfield. Starfield was designed to be pursued and played like a games as a service. When it wasn't played like a games as a service, and it only had that good initial first month, and it didn't sustain Game Pass subscribers, it didn't bring in the basically what Amy Hood did is she said, look, if we keep this multiplat and not put this day and date in Game Pass, this is how much money we're going to get. In order to match that money or surpass it, here's what we need to do. There needs to be these amount of Game Pass subscribers subscribed for this long. There needs to be these amount of sales natively on PC and natively on Xbox. And from what I understand, they fell short of that in a major way. So that's when they said, this is it. Thank you, Phil, for your thoughts. Move over to the passenger side. Satya and I are going to take over driving here and there. And every now and again, Phil's like, come on, man, just turn here. And they're like, okay, Phil, we'll turn here if it makes you happy. Like, we all know that they were battling internally about putting Call of Duty day and date in the Game Pass. I think that was a fight Phil made, and he won that fight. And we will see if he continues to win that fight, because again, Amy Hood is going to look at the financials and say, okay, being that we're putting this day and date in Game Pass, here's how much they need to sell in totality on PlayStation. Here's what they need to sell on Xbox and PC natively. And here's how many Game Pass subscribers we got to have and how long we got to sustain them. Now, what we do know is that at least for Call of Duty Black Ops 6, they sold a shit ton on PlayStation. That's the only thing we do know. We've gotten some pie in the sky numbers for Game Pass. They don't mean nothing unless they're sustained for several months. If they're not sustained for several months, they mean nothing. So we'll see in their quarterly financials if they were sustained. If they weren't sustained, and like I told you, Will Sink, if Xbox's quarter reports are not higher than last quarter, heads are rolling. So we even got Call of Duty activity fluctuating and being in flux at Xbox. So that's why I say I would be more understanding of an argument that Call of Duty is saving PlayStation, but I would still be able to debate that and say that the relationship is symbiotic, meaning it's a detriment if you take Call of Duty off of PlayStation, it's a detriment to PlayStation, but I would argue it's a bigger detriment to Xbox. Because if it wasn't the case, then they would have found a way to, maybe not this year, but they would have shortened the deal. Nobody would have been able to do anything about it because the regulators said they're not obligated. There is no concerner. They're not obligated to stay on your platform. Microsoft successfully made their arguments to the regulators. PlayStation, you are the market leader. You make this, you do that. All those signs that the president put out there about the market share, they were successful. The CMA, and including the CMA, said there's nothing here. You need to find a replacement to fill this gap. They're talking about 10-year deals, but whatever. Now the 10-year deal part that they were offering Sony was just on top of it. They're offering 10-year deals. But regardless of the 10-year deals, there's nothing to worry about. You are the market leader. You need to find a replacement. They're not obligated to stay on your platform. Kick rocks. That's what they told Jim Ryan. Amy Hood saw the financials. Satya saw the financials. Why didn't they shorten the deal for PlayStation? If they're still trying to compete, or if they're still a competitor? No. During this trial, Starfield had not did what it done, and the decision was made. So that's a symbiotic relationship. That, to me, that does not show that Call of Duty is even saving PlayStation. Call of Duty staying on PlayStation in the form that it is now is actually better for PlayStation, because guess what happened? Instead of them just getting 20%, now they're getting 30%. So they're getting higher margins. So it's not Xbox. If your argument was, which is still ignorant to a lot of moving cogs throughout the whole business side of this, if your argument is, well, just Call of Duty alone is saving PlayStation, if that's your argument, I can understand you making that argument ignorant to certain facts. But it's a symbiotic relationship. They both need each other. PlayStation doesn't need Call of Duty to survive. It would be a big blow to them, absolutely. But who's going to compete with them? Who do y'all think is competing with them? He says, I'm here. Who arguing this? Yeah, it says Doc. Doc, did you want to hop on? So that's the business side that we talk about, that we argue here on this channel. And because we follow the facts, we don't, nobody's saying that everything is peaches and roses at PlayStation. But if your synopsis is that PlayStation is in any trouble and their pursuit of live service games is to rectify the trouble that they're in, that's false. PlayStation realized that they have a weakness. Doesn't mean that they're in trouble. They have a weakness. Their weakness is there's a lot of live service games in their top 20 games. And they only have control of maybe 2 of them. And they need to get control of more. Because if somebody else buys any of those games and decides to yank them off of PlayStation, PlayStation will lose another $20 billion of stock evaluation or whatever. Maybe not that much, because when you combine Overwatch at the time and Call of Duty, yeah, that would have led to the loss of $20 billion in stock evaluation. Maybe they'll lose 10, 5, but they don't want to lose any, because they want to look as lucrative as they can to investors. So that's the business talk altogether. The business talk, the purpose, and it's always been about business. The business talk is, how are you showing us, how are you disputing what I'm saying in my tweet? When you look at the entire business, this dropping at 14th is bad. It's bad because of the precedent that's set by games like State of Decay 2, for crying out loud, Gears, Stalker 2. The precedent set by plenty of games that dropped day and date in Game Pass, had better activity on Steam, whatever the case may be. This is not good. And this was a $70 game. If this was a $50 game, I wouldn't even be bringing it up. It's a $70 game too. It was supposed to be your game of the year, got all these accolades. This is how it launched. That's bad. So how are you saying in pluralistic fashion that a platform, that a library of games, plural, or leading to or saving Xbox, when we look at these games individually, and they're going to get the scrutiny as each one releases, South of Midnight, whatever. That's really going to counter the argument if they can't even do well if they can't do well at release on multiple platforms. That's really going to be a tell-all. Now, here's what I want to show you guys. Going back to the argument, because I wasn't addressing the argument. I was just giving you a brief history of how we pursue our, how we review information here. We look at the total business side, plural, and holistically. I want to show you guys something. So throughout this debate, Doc has now landed on, I didn't tell him that I was money watching at first, but then I'm claiming that I was money watching, and I guess because I haven't seen it, and I don't feel a need to watch it, because again, I think this business stuff is going over his head, and that's why he's making the argument that he's making. In his mind, PlayStation is in trouble. That's why they're pursuing live service. He doesn't understand that. And then also, PlayStation wants to mimic Nintendo. Those two thought processes alone tell me what I need to know. I don't need to sit and watch hours of video. I don't need to watch the scrutiny of the tweet and what I said in one video, because he's skipping over context. And I'll show you how right here. Shout out to Devil Shooter. So Devil Shooter, I think, was going back and forth with Doc on his video, and he says Doc's main point is you using Indiana Jones instead of Call of Duty in your tweet. And I explained why I didn't use Call of Duty, but I responded, I said, which is stupid because he claims Xbox games in general will save PlayStation, right? And he didn't deny that in the first 9 minutes of his 2-hour video. And that playing any Xbox game on PlayStation is harmful. Call of Duty, let's get Call of Duty out of the discussion. Call of Duty has always been symbiotic, has always had a symbiotic relationship with PlayStation since last gen. They've done nothing but made money together. That's not a good example for his cause. Because if you're making it sound like, well, Call of Duty is saving PlayStation, that sounds like, and that signifies, oh, Call of Duty can walk away from PlayStation and be fine. PlayStation's really leading on Call of Duty. No. If Call of Duty walks away from PlayStation, the game loses funding. The game is hitting a trajectory of costing $1 billion, according to Steve Totillo's reporting. It was at $700 million in 2020 to make and maintain. It's now hitting towards $1 billion to make and maintain. You're trying to tell me if that game walks away from Call of Duty, from PlayStation, you're still getting the same game, or are you getting a version of Call of Duty made in Roblox? Like, let's be real here. It's a symbiotic relationship. Meaning they're both dependent upon each other. So Call of Duty is not saving PlayStation any more than PlayStation is saving it. So we get that out of it. Your strongest argument has now been debunked. Call of Duty has always had a symbiotic relationship with PlayStation since last gen. They've done nothing but they money together. That's not a good example for his cause. For instance, if Call of Duty leaves PlayStation, you think it gets the same support? No. He needs to stick to his original point and defend it and not move the goalposts. When chin checked. What is his original point? The original point is Xbox games, not just Call of Duty, not just live service. Playing Xbox games on PlayStation is bad. So then, Devil Shooter tries to break down the video for me. He says, Call of Duty, he says, I watched the video, here are the bullet points. Call of Duty and other MS games will outsell PlayStation games because causing PlayStation to make less money. You see what again, why is it that you nullify my argument about Indiana Jones, but you're already assuming that these forthcoming Xbox games are going to make more money? Is it going to be Indiana Jones? Is Indiana Jones going to make more money on PlayStation than Ghost of Yatai? Do you really think that Indiana Jones is going to make more money on PlayStation than Ghost of Yatai? Really? Really? You think Indiana Jones is going to make more? Stop. What all? Sony, what did he say? Sony wants first party to be most popular on PlayStation. No, Sony wants, the point that I will semi-concede, that I've semi-conceded to him, is that he's right. Sony wants to see more live service games in their top 20. I had this argument with Cold Blood in 2023. I believe Will Sinks was there when I showed him the top played 100 charts, and Cold Blood was trying to argue with me, was like, well, that's not for real. And I broke it down to him on how that caused Jim Ryan to jump out of the window for live service games. They realized that their weakness was not enough live service games owned by PlayStation or controlled by PlayStation or in their top 20. So if someone pulls this again, they have a huge vulnerability. That point, I don't even have to concede that point because I made that first. I made that years before Doc. So they want more first part, when I say live service first party activity, they don't want me who doesn't play games like Concord or Will Sync who don't play those. They don't expect us to play those games. What they want is the people that are playing Fortnite, the people that are playing Call of Duty, the people that are playing Apex, the people that are playing Roblox to put down their controllers from those games and pick up more and play as they hope Concord or Helldivers. That's what they want. They understand that there's a live service demographic. Everybody doesn't fit into that demographic. They're not just expecting someone that's not part of the live service demographic to start picking up and playing those games. And here's the thing. He's telling, Doc is saying, you PlayStation gamers, you're dumb, and you're not playing these live service games. They're not live service gamers. Non-live service gamers don't flock to live service games all like that. You may have these anomalies here and there, like a Marvel Rivals or whatever, or Fortnite here and there that makes a non-live service gamer a live service gamer, but those are anomalies. And your game has to be really good. So what you're telling PlayStation gamers to fake the funk if Sony puts out crap? No, Sony needs to just put out better live service games. Concord was trash. So yeah, that is what they want to do, but they're not in trouble because of that. It's a vulnerability that they realize they need to fix. Doesn't mean that they're in trouble. He says Sony may stop AAA's single player development if they don't sell remasters or make games as a service. They can't stop AAA development. That's what brings people to PlayStation. Now, I'll give you a prime example. Say me and Will Sinks, we're trying to figure out a console to buy. Because me and Will like to play Call of Duty. And I'm like, oh man, we can play Call of Duty on Nintendo. We can play Call of Duty on Xbox, or we can play it on PlayStation. Which system are we going to buy, man? So we can play the, or, you know, I mean, it is cross-play, but, you know, what are you buying? Now, let's just say Will buys an Xbox, right? Now, let's say I buy a PlayStation because not only do I like Call of Duty, but I see this God of War that they got out there, and I'm like, oh, that looks badass. Yeah, I think I'm going to pick that up, too. And that's the difference maker. I'm now settled into that ecosystem because the games that they have are more well recognized, they look better, they get more critically acclaimed. There you have it. Another thing too is, what is everybody else playing on? Oh man, I'm not playing that Call of Duty because I hear this cheating. I just want to play with PlayStation people, you know, or whatever. Well, we all can get a PlayStation. Normally when you get clans, people still buy the new systems even though that they're cross-play. But it's those exclusives that bring the people to the platforms. That's why they come. That's the purpose of the exclusive. So PlayStation can't stop making exclusives. What will happen though, as exclusives get more expensive to make, they'll make less of them, or it'll take longer for them to make them. Jim Ryan spoke about that last generation. He told us before the generation started, he said, right, Will Sinks, didn't Jim Ryan not say that expect AAA games to take longer to make? I don't know if Doc wasn't around then when he said this, but he said this last generation. They can't stop. It's too demonstrative to the business, not because they need the money from they don't need the money from from first party games to totally fund the business. That's Nintendo's business. They need the first party games to bring people to their console, so people buy the third party games there. That's how PlayStation and Xbox were at first, utilizing their first party games. So they're not going to stop. Then he said that 30% is not enough. That's what, look, This is the problem. You don't understand the business. 30% is more than enough. Prime example, Call of Duty. Call of Duty cost $1 billion to make it. I mean, it's creeping up rather on $1 billion if it hasn't surpassed it already. In 2020, it was 700 million. That was in 2020. This is 5 years later. Call of Duty is creeping up on $1 billion annually to make and maintain. So would you rather have, if you're PlayStation, would you rather take a whole bunch of games that cost $1 billion each to make and maintain, or would you and get 70 out of that, right? Get 70% out of that, and you got $1 billion expenditure, or would you rather have a whole bunch of other companies just do the expenditure and you get 30% of it? What, dog, this does not make economic sense. This is how they run their business. They'd rather get 30% and let everybody else have the expenditures versus them spending $1 billion a pop and getting 70%. There's too much upkeep in these AAA games now. You saw it. They went from costing $45 million to make Uncharted games or Last of Us to make to $220 million, $350 million for Spider-Man. So even Sony can't. They can't maintain that and put out a slew of AAA games. They can't do that. And that's why Yoshida said what he said. He said, if you want more of these games, there has to be funding for them. Otherwise, PlayStation is going to put them out in enough pace to draw people to PlayStation. And what they're going to do to try to increase margins on them, they do want to increase margins because their margins are low. They're in single digits. But before y'all can start clapping like a baby seal, so is Xbox's. Xbox's margins are in single digits, and they're always in single digits. PlayStation's are temporarily in single digits, and they're already creeping up. So to increase margins, what Sony said is what they're going to do. And again, what are margins? Margins, when you're publicly traded, margins just make you more attractive they're part of the equation that makes you more attractive to investors. It's a slew of things. I do this for a living. It's your equity, cash on hand, your overall worth. See your compound annual growth on certain new businesses or business ventures that you're getting into. It's a slew of things that determine your stock price. Your stock price versus how many shares you have out there equates to your overall business value. That lets you know how lucrative you are as a business. Prime example, one of the discussions that we had right before I went live right now is, well, doesn't Nintendo have bigger margins? Yes, they do have bigger profit margins. However, because PlayStation generates more revenue and its profit margins are low temporarily, they are looked at as a more lucrative business. Why? Because their potential revenue and profit has a higher ceiling than Nintendo's. Because they have more money generating in their business, their ceiling as far as what they can produce in the market is higher than Nintendo's. Nintendo generates $11 billion a year. PlayStation is generating $27 billion. So all they got to do is lower margins. You can let some employees go. You can do this. They can raise margins by a number of ways. They have a bigger footprint than Nintendo. That's why their stock price is higher. I don't want to gore you guys with these details, but again, when you guys throw these questions at me, it proves to me that instead of just coming up with your own hypothesis, subscribe to this channel. Okay, let me stop right here. Let me pause this. For the past 25 years, have worked at a Fortune 500 company from a manager, high manager, or project management level. We are the largest company in our sector as far as revenue is concerned and revenue controlled. I have been part of multi-million-dollar cases testifying on behalf of my company. I have helped regulators draft uniform commercial code on certain activities. This is what keeps my lights on. So based upon that experience, based upon how businesses work, and based on the ignorance out there in the community, I talk in a format that educates you on the business. It's not just about, 30% is lower than 70%. So no, it's bigger than that. And you guys don't understand that. That's why I've been able to predict the place that PlayStation is versus Xbox. I've been able to predict it when at the beginning of this generation, you guys had no clue. Because I understand the business. Decisions are made based upon the business. And I always try to tell y'all, decisions are not made simply because y'all complain on Twitter or y'all fanboy or fangirl or do this. The number uno important person to these businesses are the investors. You are just a commodity. You are used to show investors, hey, we have something going on where we can generate this type of money from this consumer base. Invest in us. That's it. Everything they do is to capture an investor once they're publicly traded. When they're private, it's a little bit different. But once they're publicly traded, it's all about their evaluation on the stock market. So yeah, when you guys say, well, 70 is bigger than 30 and they want the 70 more. No, you're not calculating everything that comes with the 70. I've been doing this for a living. I've been trying to share my knowledge with y'all for 7+ years, and you guys keep ending up wrong because you won't listen, because you want to live in your own fantasy worlds. That's on you. That's not a me problem. All right. So he says, what else does it say here? It says, he also said 30 is not enough. Okay, we already addressed that. Him thinking Xbox games will surpass PlayStation games as a concert fact is it's hypothesis, which based upon what? That is my argument. And Devil Shooter gets it. If your argument is that these games are going to surpass PlayStation, show me how. Show me how. Show me how. Like, let me give you an example. All right. Let me see if I can find that tweet. Let me see. Can I make this bigger? Oh, shoot. Hopefully you got, I'm sorry. Damn, I can't make that any bigger. You guys should be able to see it here. These are the top 20 games in North America, period, via NPD. So opposite of the games that are always here, right? From Microsoft, Call of Duty and Minecraft, right? Opposite of those two games that are always here. And you got to give Microsoft credit for Minecraft. They've owned them forever. So even if you're like, well, they can't take credit for Call of Duty, even if that's your argument, you got to give them credit for Minecraft. I feel like you got to give them credit for both. They own them, so it's theirs. Opposite of that, what other Xbox games are here? But I can show you PlayStation console exclusives that are here. Helldivers, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, even Marvel Spider-Man is here. Now, granted, I get it. Sea of Thieves and Grounded was up on this chart a little bit because, again, people, and I talked about this in my first video that Doc was referring to, but I feel like he didn't listen to the full video, because if he would have listened to the full video, he would have heard me talk about the money as it correlates to the business when I was referring to that one tweet. Where's if PlayStation people are playing Xbox games more than PlayStation games, where are the PlayStation games here in the top 20? I mean, where's the Xbox game? I mean, if PlayStation people are playing Xbox games more, how come they're not in the top 20? You got Minecraft that's always going to be here. You got Call of Duty, a Call of Duty game, or a couple, I'm sorry, 2 Call of Duty games that are going to be here. Where's Grounded? Where's Fallout? Fallout got a huge bump. Where's Fallout? Where's Sea of Thieves? If your argument, again, I wouldn't entertain it, but it would be more digestible if your argument was Call of Duty is saving PlayStation. I would be like, okay, all right. I see how you're trying to work that angle. I'm not even going to pay attention to that. But the argument is Xbox games are holding up PlayStation. Where? That's what the tweet was about. Because the tweet was scrutinizing an Xbox game, right? That just came out. That doesn't even look like it's holding any weight on its own ecosystem. So how's it going to save PlayStation? Are you guys suggesting that because Sea of Thieves got a bump and Grounded got a bump, so you just think these games are going to take over? Well, where's the sign of that? See, I'm not buckling down to hyperbole and conjecture. Even Devil Shooter catches that. So here's Doc's response. He says, again, you're talking about money. Your tweet was talking about money. Absolutely. Everything I talk about relates to the money. Your first video to me was not talking about money. That's wrong. My first tweet was talking about money. I mean, my first video was talking about money, and the subsequent video that was an hour or has an hour-long section dedicated to addressing this fully was talking about money. You conveniently leave those out, right? So I tell him, stop it, bro. From 7:45 in that first video, let's pull it up. Let's see here. We'll go to our channel. Was that a video? Yeah, that was a video. Purple Haze says Nintendo wins. That's super. Shout out to Purple Haze. Thank you for that. Oh, he's talking about this video. So let me play this video, right? And let's break it down. Okay, I already got the thing there. Let's put the music out. Let me start around the 7 minute. Is that right? Did I timestamp that right? In the first video. Yeah, this is the video I believe he's talking about. Let's start from 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Trying to pin Xbox in a competitive way against PlayStation, right? Let me show you guys something. I don't know whose sock account this is, right? But I thought this was extremely interesting to see this, right? Let me see here. Let me go to my replies. Yeah, here we go. All right. So I'm going to show this and then we're going to get out of here. I was talking about Nib's comment and responded to it and said, this is my point exactly. The Xbox could have had strong. Hold on. Let me pause this here. The fact that I'm quoting Nib, this is what I'm saying. This shit flies over people's heads. And instead of, you don't have to totally agree with me and say, oh, I see where you're coming from, MM, but I don't agree with that's the causation of it. But this is flying over my brother's head, and he's saying, I'm not talking about money. I'm quoting Nib. What does Nib say here? I know Xbox may not have the sales traction. Oh my God, what is sales? Money. I know Xbox may not have the sales traction anymore with Game Pass sales cannibalization plus dwindled console market share, but imagine if these were all exclusive. And I respond, this is my point exactly. Just wrapped up the showcase from work and it is solid. This could have been a very strong year for Xbox and significantly stronger one for Game Pass if exclusive. Oh, well, stronger how? Financially, the business, the thing that we talk about here all the time. He just sat here and said, I want to show you what he said. He said, I wasn't talking about it, right? And I'm gonna get to your comment, Winter Soldier. He said I wasn't talking about it. He says your tweet was talking about money. Your first video to me was not talking about money. I'm quoting Nib, but you don't understand how I'm talking about money in relation to all this. Because you don't understand the dots that I'm connecting all the way from these charts, right? That show underperformance. Underperformance how? What is NPD rank? Can anybody tell me what NPD ranks? NPD ranks who made the most money. So my point is, if you're saying PlayStation, I'm gonna give you an out. I'm gonna give you an out right here. Here's your out. I took your comment to say PlayStation was in trouble because of financial situations. That's how I took your tweet. I took your tweet to mean that PlayStation is in trouble over financial situations. If PlayStation is in trouble over financial situations, my question is, how can a game that financially doesn't chart the way that its contemporaries chart in its month that it releases, how can that save PlayStation when it doesn't even chart after being on Xbox and on Steam? How is it going to save PlayStation when it can't chart the way that it's supposed to versus its contemporaries? Gears, Forza, State of Decay, for crying out. State of Decay 2 launched day and date in Game Pass, didn't have the luxury to launch on Steam. It even beat God of War. Explain how. It's all related to the finances. You don't see, I shouldn't have to say this. Money, M-O-N-E-Y, money. I shouldn't have to say that after each word. Indiana, M-O-N-E-Y, Jones, M-O-N-E-Y, didn't, M-O-N-E-Y. I shouldn't have to do that. If you're in tune to business, the decisions that are made, the analytics, the financials of it, you understand that it all relates to money. So yes, the tweet was about money and the first video was about money, because I'm saying to you, if your argument is that Sony needs to be saved, it needs to be saved how? You must be talking about financials, right? And you catered your arguments around 70% isn't enough. Or 30% is enough. They need 70. They're selling their games elsewhere. You're making financial arguments, so I assess that you're talking about financials. So if Sony needs help, you're basing it off of financials, right? Okay, so what I'm essentially saying is, how does a game that doesn't hit the litmus that its contemporaries hit with financials, how is that going to save PlayStation when it can't save its own platform when it's on its own platform and it's on PC? How was that happen? That was the argument. It's all tied into financials. I shouldn't have to say money and spell it out after each word. So we'll continue to the video where I'm quoting Nib. I'm quoting Nib, for crying out loud. Showcasing or a strong placement retail wise, at least for the console gamers. And so I don't know whose sock account this is. This is somebody's sock account that doesn't want to show themselves like a coward. Anyway, they said, laugh my ass off. What games does Sony have this year? Xbox feeding that malnourished PlayStation 4 prolapse console so it does die, right? and immediately, because the hubris in these people is astounding, and it just triggers something in my head. I said, they have your games. There's nothing else need to be said. Your favorite box, dongle, whatever the F it is this month, lacks so much confidence in sales out of it lacks so much confidence in what? Pipsqueak lemonade stand, Xbox Marketplace. Them MFers come running to Saks Fifth Avenue, PlayStation Marketplace, to push their units. It's all related to money. Look at that. Oh my gosh. The first video was talking about the lack of success in their marketplace, which I called a lemonade stand. And because they failed so much at pushing their own product at their lemonade stand, they got to come run to Saks Fifth Avenue and say, please sell our product. That's all about money, which in bigger part talks about business. That's all it needs to be. Well, how do you miss that? Unless you're just skimming through. I'll put it like this. Doc reminds me of my wife a lot. I will say things to my wife, and a lot of the important notes go right past her. And I'll be like, but babe, I told you such and such, such and such. She only emphasizes on certain words. I feel like Doc does the same thing. Everything I talk about, for the most part, I tie into financials when I'm debating about success. When I'm talking about success and failure, I am basing it 9 times out of 10. I'm basing it off of financials. Are there possibilities that I've had conversations where I was talking about something and it didn't relate to finances at all? Possibly. But on this channel, when I'm talking about success and failure, I'm talking about how you sold, your saturation, your business model, how you're attracting people. It's all related to financials. Like, I'll give you an example. When I talk about Sony's business and I talk about the success of their exclusives themselves don't have to be financial juggernauts. Every single one of them don't. They bring you to the marketplace where they are the financial activity is happening in the marketplace. So even though when I'm talking about the PlayStation exclusives, I may not say, oh, well, that sold $80 billion or that didn't sell 80 billion, so it was a failure. No. It's there to tantalize you to come to the marketplace, but I'm connecting the dot. That action brings you to a financial transaction, which is based upon the business model of said company. Nintendo's business model is we are going to have some low activity, low investment games that give us a higher profit margin, even though we're building in lower revenue. And that's how we're going to sustain our business. PlayStation wants to go bigger, like Xbox wanted to go bigger. They were competing in the AAA genre defining market. That's why everybody was saying Nintendo was in their own lane. They weren't competing in that market. Where Xbox and PlayStation, they were trying to lure you with their exclusives while selling you third-party games. Let me give you another example of how lucrative third-party games are. And Will Sinks can vouch for this too. because this is when I was an Xbot when I made this argument. 2018, it was PlayStation's biggest fiscal year up until that point, right? I think PlayStation had made, 18 billion, Will? I'm going to read your comment in a second. I'm sorry. 18 billion they made. And Xbox made 15 billion. And people couldn't believe it because people looked at PlayStation and said, oh, PlayStation made 18 billion. Oh, Xbox probably made 7. And when they made 15 billion and even made more than Nintendo, the world was shocked. But Will, how did they make that money? Will knows. They made it off of multiplats. Fortnite was huge for them, as it was for everybody. And Fortnite was so huge, it dwarfed income from everywhere else. It was bigger on PlayStation, but again, it was so big everywhere that it was at, that as long as you had a piece of that pie, you were good. And because everybody had a piece of that pie, PlayStation couldn't break away the way that they wanted to. They had double the activity. They had double the sales and double this and double that, but didn't have double the revenue. That's how big third-party activity is to an Xbox or a PlayStation. That's why I'm saying you got to understand the business. When you understand the business, then PlayStation does not want it to be like Nintendo at all. They do not want to make the investments in having most of their games support the platform. They don't have the money to do that. That means that they would have to spend a 700 million here, 500 million here, 400 million here. They don't have the capacity to do that. They have a capacity to drop a couple of exclusives every year to get y'all all excited. Money had a few more exclusives to get y'all excited. And then once y'all come to the yard, y'all buy all the other games that are multi-plat from them. That's the business. What PlayStation needs to do is simply find better margins in that business, because they used to be in double-digit margins like Nintendo, and now they're in single-digit margins. Why are they in single-digit margins? Cost of production. Hardware mainly, but software as well. The yen. The yen for the first time increased interest rates in a positive percent in 25 years. So for those of y'all in the States that know what Little Debbie snack cakes were, remember 25 years ago when your Little Debbie snack cake was 50 cents? It was still 50 cents in Japan until like a year ago. And all of a sudden, boom, prices ballooned. That at first helped PlayStation, but then after a while, the effects of that interest rate going up hurt them and hurt Sony and hurt a lot of Japanese companies. That's why you see, Mitsubishi and Honda, they're having to join forces. Japanese companies are hurting. Even PlayStation. Even Nintendo. They're still in double digits, but their net margins went down. I think they said 69%. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I got that wrong. Their net margins went down. That was from a quarter to quarter. Their fiscal net margins went down 12%. So Japanese companies are getting hit. And to deal with them getting hit, now again, Nintendo's getting hit. Are we saying that Nintendo is in trouble? No. In order for PlayStation to deal with them getting hit too, what they're doing is they're saying, let's take these highly sought after, critically acclaimed PlayStation games and put them on PC sooner. I think it's a dumb strategy. Along with let's continue this live service push to increase our margins. But they're not doing that to survive. They're not down year over year in comparison to the market, like how Xbox is. Like you'll have average percentages where these console makers or whatever are down, and the percentage that Xbox is down in a particular area will far exceed what you don't see PlayStation down 40% this and that when everybody else is only down like 5% or everybody's up 2%. Those are signs that your business is in trouble. So you can't use terminology. But basically what I'm saying, here's the TLDR. You can't say any business is in trouble when their market activity looks a certain way. You can't say it. You guys have been making this mistake for over a decade. Y'all been saying, oh, PlayStation, what's it called? Ain't been hitting. They ain't been hitting. Y'all been saying that since 2014. And PlayStation tried to calm y'all nerves and say, well, this is our business. Every single PlayStation game doesn't have to hit. Here are the margins that we're looking for. We're cool with a 60% failure rate. On games that we release, we could deal with a 60% failure rate. And they're well within those margins. They have concerns over profit margins, but they're not in a dire situation that a lot of their contemporaries aren't seeing. So they're doing things to correct that and weather the storm, which they'll be able to do. They don't have any competition now, unfortunately. So that's the TLDR. You can't sit there and say they're in trouble when you look at their financial package and it doesn't show trouble. It shows concern for investors because they're like, well, you don't look as lucrative as we would like for you to look. You need to improve on this. But nobody's running with their hair on fire. Oh my God, Sony is a horrible they're about to close shop. Nobody's saying that. If you don't have the financial market saying that, then that claim has no validity. There's nothing showing that. And you assessing that Xbox games, plural, that aren't even doing well on their own ecosystem, them saving PlayStation games where there's no litmus, there's no list out here that proves that. It's jargon. And trying to sit here and say, well, let's look at this. Says, I told him, stop it, bro, from 7:45 in that first video where I showed you guys around to the 9-minute mark, I talk business. An extended first hour of in a row podcast, which I'm not even going to do all that. We talk business. If anybody watched that show, we broke down the business. Everything I talk correlates to business. That's why you hear that word over and over. Business is money. It's about how the money and stock evaluation analysts, all of it form its decisions and create business models. So yes, Sony's business model, which includes money, shows that Xbox games, plural, are not saving PlayStation. The chart shows that. Using Call of Duty, which has a symbiotic relationship, they survive off each other, is not an example of Xbox games, plural, saving PlayStation. Nice try, bub. No checkmate at all. You just don't get it. I recommend you watch the first hour of In a Row podcast to prep for a debate. That's it, man. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be watching Walking Dead spinoffs. Jesus Christ. Shout out to Dark. I love you, man. You're more freaking stubborn than I am, man. You're a stubborn SOB, but I love it. That's cool. You ain't going back down. But I'm not responding. Again, there's no point to respond to anything else. I'm not responding to anything else because I don't. Let me say this nicely because I'm tired. I gotta be. The things that I'm saying, you're not connecting the dots. I think because I have the experience in this realm and you don't. And so you're making correlations to things that you shouldn't be making correlations to. if you want to make fun of PlayStation in their record low profit margins and say, you got to put your games elsewhere to raise your profit margins, sure. You keep failing at games as a service, sure. You're not being transparent about your games coming, sure. I'll even take even though I explained that one in that first video. In as far as volume is concerned, you guys are enjoying more Xbox games than you are games from PlayStation in 2025, as far as what we know. Okay, that's true. Those are things that we've criticized here. When Cold Blood and I talked about the showcase, we criticized those things. I think those are legit criticisms, even though I may not agree with all of them. But saying, y'all playing Xbox games on PlayStation is bad for PlayStation, that's a bad argument. How is it bad? Or if your argument is it's bad because you believe that it's embarrassing that PlayStation is not releasing games to its gamers and PlayStation gamers have to rely on Xbox, I mean, that I don't believe that, but that's a more fathomable argument. That's a more fathomable argument that, hey, I think it's embarrassing that y'all got to rely on Xbox games now when PlayStation's deciding not to give y'all anything. I don't think y'all should be celebrating that. Okay, that's an argument. I wouldn't even waste my time arguing against that one because there are some truths to that. We haven't been told anything for PlayStation, and we're sitting there rubbing our hands at some of these Xbox games, not because we cherish the Xbox games more than PlayStation, but to give Xbox their credit as a publisher. They're outshining everybody right now. Everybody's afraid to say anything except for Kingdom Come Deliverance and mainly Xbox. Everybody's afraid to say anything because of what? Grand Theft Auto. And Xbox said, fuck them. We're going to tell you, we're going to kick off the year. You got to give Xbox kudos for that. Me and Cold Blood did that during the show. So if your argument is, or if your antagonization is, you're waiting to hear something from PlayStation but you're getting the Xbox games instead to fill your time. We thought we were losers. We thought our games were trash. I can understand that. I can understand that one. But when you go as far to try to nuke the PlayStation getting Xbox games debate by saying, oh no, it's actually bad. What you got to explain what bad means. Because I take bad as financial. And if you mean bad as financial, the argument is lost. You don't have an argument there. There is no correlating argument that proves that playing Xbox games on PlayStation is bad for PlayStation financially. It's not bad. It's actually good. Because Xbox wants high yield games that don't require investment from them to generate. That's their business. This live service stuff is to increase margins and to shore up any other person trying to snatch up live service games from them. That's what it is. You're miscorrelating that as saying, oh, they're not making enough money, that's why they're doing that. No. They are trying to increase margins. That's why Hiroki Totoki is still pursuing it, but they scale back so much. Why? Because they were over pursuing it. If PlayStation was in that much trouble and had to pump out all 12 games, you think they would have canceled, 6 of them? You guys are saying 10. I don't know where you're getting 10 from. Maybe I'm miscounting. I'm counting 6. But do you think they would cancel 6 of them? No. They just still threw that shit out there. They haven't thrown it out there because they're like, okay, maybe this was too much. And they got to be better quality. They're not even worth the pursuit. So that's why they're doing that. But to say PlayStation is, oh, they're dying and this, just that you don't understand the business. And everything I talk about was money. That first video where I talked about was money. I correlated them underperforming because I was talking about them underperforming with the money. Even though I was talking about you're taking, see, this is what I'm saying. You're missing things, Doc, like my wife does. It just agitates me. You're taking that first part where I talk. The first part is me talking about gamers, being excited about Xbox games because it's an anomaly. But that's not all I talked about. I also talked about how that list shows you that financially there's no proof that it's boosted anything. It's all correlated and connected together. And really that video was just, I'm just peppering you a little bit while I was at work. That's why it's one of my shorter videos. I'm just peppering you with a whole bunch of stuff that correlate with each other while I'm at work. I'm talking about the interaction with Doc that correlates to the theme that PlayStation is being saved by Xbox, which is tied to financials. What Nib had to say, which is tied to the business and financials, right? And then I made my little argument in between that was connected to just the anticipation that PlayStation gamers have of getting these Xbox games. But I was peppering you with a little bit of everything. I was talking the financials related to those two things. But the bigger conversation when I was fully addressing you was NRO podcast. How do you miss that? How do you conveniently miss all that? That doesn't make any sense. Like, I even attempted to watch your 2-hour video until I got to the 9-minute mark, and you were way off base. It's time for me to read my brother's comment. Will Sink says, does the NPD for December become a harbinger of showing the multi-plat strategy will be part of a short-term gain or long-term pain for the Xbox console? See if I understand this right. You got to excuse me. I'm tired. Does the NPD for December become a harbinger of showing the multi-plat strategy will be a short-term gain for a long-term pain? I'm sorry, Will. You'd have to re-explain that one. I'm sorry. Please do. Are you still around, Will? Like, what do you mean? Are you saying that Xbox is trying to, like, this is a temporary move for them? Like, them going multi-plat is only temporary? Is that what is that what you think? Or what are you saying? Well, I'm sorry I hope you're still around. He says that's why it's baffling that Xbox is so lax on games that skipped. All right. So basically, yeah, I just, it says, oh yeah, so you're suggesting is Xbox maybe doing this temporarily to pull one over on PlayStation? Look, I have made this argument. I don't believe it anymore. Cold Blood still does. That's why I said people got to watch the channel to get the gist of the of our theme here, our thesis here. Cold Blood has said, he even said in today's stream, I don't trust those mofos. Now, he didn't use mofo. You know what he said. He said, I don't trust them mofos. I don't believe it until they start putting those games in PS Plus. He said, when I start seeing those games in PS Plus, I'll believe it. That's Cold Blood's theory. I was saying that I felt like they were going to do this just for 10 years and then yank it. But I think Satya and Nadella is totally turned off from competing from a marketplace standpoint. And here's why. Who's the PlayStation is number 2. Xbox is number 3. Who's number 1? Tencent. When Xbox restructured, they restructured more to be like Tencent. At the end of the day, as far as competition is concerned under Satya Nadella, Xbox isn't thinking about PlayStation at the end of the day. Let me see if I can find that Verge org chart. Here it goes. This is again paying attention to the business. 2023 October, this is when this came out. Now, there's been some additions, and they did put out a new one because Bobby Kotick isn't there anymore. And Activision has been absorbed into Matt Booty's team. But this is the new business. Bill is the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. Matt Booty is the president of content and studios. Sarah Bond is in charge of the Xbox platform. So you do have a sector of Tencent that's working with NVIDIA to create a cloud service, the Chinese version of GFN. Or you had it. I don't know if that's ended or what. But there's also the side of Tencent that is just a third-party publisher over in Asia. That's why Microsoft restructured this way. Microsoft Gaming. Because Microsoft Gaming isn't just about a platform or even an ecosystem. I would say its biggest pursuits are distributing games. And I think secondary to that is Xbox. Distributing games is first, and Xbox, the actual platform, is second. So they're structuring themselves like Tencent. And Tencent makes more money than everybody. So again, if your argument is, well, Xbox Xbox has revolutionized itself, and now they're going to make more money than PlayStation. If you wanted to make that argument, fine. I mean, my argument to that would be, well, as long as it doesn't mess with PlayStation's desires to own the AAA genre-defining console market and marketplace, then who cares? Because they're making a game with, or they've pretty much pimped off the Horizon IP to Tencent to make that what Normium of Axiom or whatever game. That's a ripoff of Horizon, and Hiroki Totoki pimped that out, as far as I'm concerned. He pimped it out. He told them, give it another name, because we can't call it Horizon, because all hell would break loose if a Horizon game launches on PC day and date 2. Call it something else. And if somebody else is making it, call it. And then they came up with Axiom Memoriam or whatever the hell it is. And guess what? It's not coming to Xbox. Why wouldn't it come to Xbox? Why wouldn't Tencent put it on Xbox too? It has live service elements to it. Why wouldn't you put it on Xbox? Because you got to deal with PlayStation. Why would you have a deal with PlayStation? Well, it looks very similar. Why would it look similar? PlayStation allowed you to rip off the IP because this is part of their, what was that, experimental games thing? There you have it. But back to how Tencent correlates to Xbox. Tencent and Xbox purposefully restructured to simulate Tencent, because Tencent is a lot more mobile and a lot more fluid, and they don't get pushed away saying, oh, well, you got a competing platform. They've slithered out the game creation part from up under the platform part and made it its own separate entity. Now they're able to do business even with people that compete with their platform and look, no Xbox game being played on PlayStation helps Xbox. It actually hurts Xbox, right, Will? This is why I don't get this argument. Yo, vet in the house, Will, help me understand this argument if you're still here. Help me understand it. You, a diehard Xbox person, maybe I should get you to talk to Doc. I know there's some things in this argument you may believe in, but what I'm trying to understand is, which I think you can understand, how can Xbox games now being on PlayStation hurt PlayStation? They hurt the Xbox more than anything, right? And they help PlayStation, because if I'm deciding which marketplace I'm going to go to, I might say, oh, I can get PlayStation games and Xbox games here. I'm going here. That helps PlayStation. That brings over a consumer that was just going to go to Xbox because they prefer Xbox games. But if I'm going to get Xbox and PlayStation games, why not go to PlayStation? What's going on? Will, help me out. I know I'm putting you in a precarious situation, but I'm trying to understand why this argument is being made. It doesn't make any sense. I'm trying to understand the Xbox logic here. And I don't say that facetiously. Someone help me understand the logic, please. Now, and again, I don't agree with this approach. Yeah, Will said, yeah, it hurts. I'm not understanding. Nothing against Doc, but Doc is new here. Will's been around here. Will's been doing this longer than I have. That's why I asked Will. Will Sinks, part of the infamous Xbox Uncut. One of the most pivotal Xbox shows out there. I'm telling you. It's made me, it was the show that made me do this. If I would have never heard Xbox Uncut, I wouldn't do this. Why? Because these guys were having the same discussions that I was having at the time in regards to Xbox. There was a point in time where I believe that there was some bullpucky being played with Xbox, particularly with the Tomb Raider game and all this other stuff, that there was some unfairness there. And these guys were bringing that up and a bunch of other stuff. And when I told these guys that I was going to start Scram Punks, for those that remember that thing, it was Will and I remember Destin. They were like, oh, Scram Punks, that sounds like a bowl of cereal. They, fuck around with me. But they're the ones that inspired me to go ahead and do it. I was like, look, guys, I'm thinking of doing it. And they said, go ahead and do it. Because I was just a regular listener. And nothing against Doc, but Doc is one of these people that is like, oh no, last generation is different. It doesn't matter. No, there are things that have changed. There's a lot of precedent from last generation that applies now that you guys are missing. You're making the same mistakes that people like me made last generation. This does not help this does not hurt PlayStation. It hurts Xbox. Because if I'm on the fence and I'm like, well, I could get, for instance, I could build me a killer rig and play a bunch of my games on that rig and get Game Pass, but damn, this rig is going to cost me $1,800. Well, hold on now. Before you build that rig and play your Xbox games there, yeah, I was going to do that because of Game Pass. Well, hold on now. Check out this PlayStation 5 Pro. It looks sick too. And you're going to get all the games that are on Xbox, including the multiplats and some, and you're going to get all the PlayStation games. And that's only going to cost you $700. Huh? So you're telling me that I can save an extra $1,100, get this PlayStation 5 Pro that enhances games sick enough for me, right? And I can get the Xbox games too. Well, if you do the math, I still got to buy the Xbox games, but let me be real here. I don't play every single game on Game Pass. There's only the big ticket ones that I'm interested in. So yeah, economically, if you think about it, I'm saving $1,100. So let me just go buy a PlayStation 5 Pro and I'll just buy the Xbox games that I want to play. I'll do that. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have a good number of people do that. That hurts Xbox. That doesn't hurt. That brings to PlayStation a consumer they were not going to originally get. By putting the Xbox games there, that persuades people to go to PlayStation that may have a preference for Xbox games. But again, because Xbox is doing their console so dirty, and you're a product of that, Doc. This time around, they learned from you, and they learned not to get a $900 computer. They know they're going to have to shell out like $1,300 to $1,800. They can save anywhere between $500 to $1,100 if they get to PlayStation 5 Pro, and then just make up the difference and still save some money if they just wait to buy the games that they want to play on Xbox instead of just trying out games that they really weren't interested in for the most part. They can just buy the games that they definitely want. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to everybody. You're going to have some people that just are too tethered to Game Pass, and they'll be like, nah, I'll just stay here. I'm not buying games anymore. And that's the only worth that the Xbox console is going to have, is for people that are tethered to Game Pass. It's not going to really have that much worth globally to anybody besides that. You should understand that, because you're... So how, that doesn't hurt PlayStation, that hurts Xbox. And what Microsoft Gaming has done is they structured themselves like Tencent. So even though they have people that they compete with as far as platforms are concerned, they can say, look, this is opposite from our platform business. We want to put our games on your platform. Now, if they were trying this stupid idea that PlayStation is trying, which is PlayStation says, well, we want to make games like Lego Horizon and this Avium of Axiom or whatever, and this is their experimental thing. And we're going to put them on other platforms to draw people to PlayStation. I think it's a dumbass idea, but let's just say if that was what Xbox's approach was. Let's just say if instead of putting Starfield on there, they partnered with Lego and made a Starfield Lego game. And people were like, oh, this Starfield Lego game is so cool. I want to play the real Starfield. And the real Starfield never comes to PlayStation. Then that's a threat to PlayStation. And PlayStation is going to say, nope. You understand what I'm saying? That's different from this. You're giving them the actual game. That doesn't hurt PlayStation. It doesn't just hurt it. It's just not possible in theory when you look at the numbers. It just doesn't jive. Winter Soldier says, props to you, bro. You've done a great job with your shows. I appreciate it, brother. No, I mean, no, I'm not bull jiving. A lot of people don't realize it. That if it wasn't for you and Destin and everybody else on Xbox Uncut, I probably wouldn't even pursue this. I was like, I'm thinking about doing it, y'all. And y'all was like, yeah, go ahead, man. What the fuck you waiting on? All right. Okay. All right. I know my wife is angry because it's like 3 a.m. But yeah, that's... Oh, what is that? Thank you. We will be back. What the fuck is that? Says, although this is a temporary feature. What the hell is that? I don't even know what that is, bro. Why that even popped up. I don't even know what that is. I ain't gonna front. Okay, what is that? Twitch chat. Okay, we can hide that. Why do I even have that here? Okay. I know what the fuck that was. Okay. But yeah, man. Okay, now I gotta go to bed. All right, so here's where I'm at, man, with all this. I'm exhausted. Doc is a stubborn motherfucker. Shout out to Doc. He's stubborn as shit. I'm not going to have this discussion again because it's pointless. I guess the pivot being made is you didn't mention financials in the first video, but now you're talking financials, checkmate. The whole video was about financials. The tweet was about financials. I also was throwing it was a variety thing. I threw in financials, talked about habits, went back to financials again. We talked about everything. It was just a quick snippets, quick run video that I did at work where we did a variety of stuff. But it was all tethered, the middle part where I was talking about, comparing people seeing the Whopper at McDonald's, that was just talking about anticipation. That's what I was talking. I was talking about anticipation. But my tweet is about financials. I bring up financials and correlate that in the video. It just flew over your head, bro. And where I fully address you, because I wasn't even talking to you in the video, I just mentioned, that's the crazy thing. I don't even think I was talking to Doc or I was trying to respond to Doc in that little video. I was just mentioning the whole transaction. The first time I address you, bro, Now, I don't know if in that first video I say, oh, Doc, if you're listening, if I'm joking around, or oh, Doc, if you're listening or whatever. The first time I address you thoroughly, bro, is on the NRO podcast. That's the first time I address you. Is NRO podcast. That was a little variety video that I did because I wanted to respond to the showcase. That part where I was bringing up the Burger King and I was mainly talking about the showcase. Yes, the tweet was about financials. Me bringing up the Burger King at the McDonald's and all that other stuff. That was me saying, hey, look, you could run into some situations where gamers are excited about, PlayStation games as well. That was me addressing the excitement part, which you did bring up too. You brought that up. So I don't understand that because you got to pay attention to detail. I can understand you blurring the lines and thinking that conversation was just about anticipation and why there's anticipation. No, it was about financials too. The whole big picture, financials. I bring everything home. I start off from here, come over here, but I end up over here in a place where we're talking about the business. I always do that. When you're not familiar with the business, when I'm talking about the business, you may not catch it. But that's why I tell you, A, listen to the channel. B, let's have a debate. I'll make everything abundantly clear if we have a debate. So that's where I'm at. I wanted to just address the latest, what looks like a pivot to me is like, no, now you didn't address, you what was it? Oh God. I'm going in so many directions, being pulled in so many directions. First is this, and that, and this, that. So I guess the pivot now is, let me go back to my brother Devil Shooter. Devil Shooter is saying, or no, what he said here is, your tweet was talking about money. Your first video to me, number one, that video wasn't to you. I mentioned you, but that video was me simply talking briefly about the showcase and then talking about the interaction and then bringing it home about, hey, this looked interesting enough to the consumer base to where if Xbox would have held these games exclusive, they could have done well financially. I'm addressing the entire conversation, which the Indiana Jones chart is about financials. The Burger King and McDonald's part is about the gamer anticipation. and I bring it on home when I talk about Xbox. If they would have left this exclusive, would have been about, that was a well-rounded conversation that was intertwined about these arguments about, well, Xbox is fine. They just pivoted and they're still better and all this stuff. No, they're not. I mean, they want to be like Tencent, but I don't know if they're going to have the impact to be. We'll see. We'll see with this lineup. So, oh gosh, yeah. Ruham says, "What's good? Look, I think Sony is more countries than Microsoft putting their games on. PlayStation gets them in countries that they would otherwise not be popular in." Yeah. Before we go, let's listen to this video that I think he's so hung up on. Oh yeah, the name of the video is Xbox Developer Direct. Great show, but huge missed opportunity. Let's listen to it real quick. And I'll respond. What's up, people? It's your boy MM2K back again with another video, but I want to talk about the Developers Direct real quick. I think the Developers Direct. I just did a members video talking about it, gave my impressions of it. It's the first time I've said something in particular about an Xbox showcase. Definitely check it out. But here's what I want to address, and I'm gonna do this real quick. This is not going to be one of those 25-30 minute videos. Let me show you guys something real quick. And shout out to Nib, who put this out here. I know a lot of people try to come at him for it, but whatever. It is what it is. Some people just don't like hearing the truth, especially when you don't pom for their favorite box. I said, he says, I know Xbox may not have the sales traction anymore with Game Pass, sales cannibalization, plus dwindle console market. But imagine if all these were exclusive. Fantastic lineup for the first ever 2025, plus a Valve 2. My Game Pass sub is going to get great use. I'm not going to argue or debate any of those points. I'm just going to focus on this first paragraph. Yeah. Imagine if these games were exclusive. You look on the internet now. You can go to the members' content and see what my response is. However, if you look at the reaction from the community, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, this was great. This was solid." And if these games were exclusive, you would have an opportunity to where Xbox could take advantage of that. Before the holiday season. I'll talk about that in the video too. But here's what I want to mention to everybody. So I've been going back and forth with my brother Doc Dark. Shout out to my brother Doc Dark. Again, this is not personal, y'all. So I see, again, even in my overtures, I'm addressing the interaction, but this wasn't me responding to him. I give him a shout out. I even say, look, some of y'all that were watching our interaction, chill out. We're just, we're being jovial. This is not my official response to him. I know because I have a members video. If y'all are members, I have a members video where I prep my response to him and I do it with the members. I do it for the members. This was not my response to him. I was just talking in general. I'm at work. I'm talking in general about the showcase, and I'm showing how our interaction correlates to this. I had to just let somebody know on Twitter, chilled, docs the homie. We just going back and forth having fun. And for those of y'all that don't realize, I'm not going to go through our whole history over and over again. And again, I'm talking to the crowd. Look, I'm about to go into our history. This is what I'm saying. I don't understand where Doc is getting this from. And even if Doc is playing coy, that's not the problem. The problem is that the smooth brain people that listened to what he said, that heard this and said, yeah, that's right. I mean, I hate to be mean, but your brains are smooth as a bowling ball, not Doc's. And I think Doc is trying to be coy and he's caveating words here. But I'm clearly just running something down to the listeners real quick, putting a video out there, referencing our interaction and showing how it all intertwines from the anticipation part to the part where I bring it all home with Nib over again. But Doc and I used to be on a podcast together when we invited him to our podcast. If I'm talking to Doc, why am I explaining our relationship to Doc? like he wasn't there. Alta Commission. We had a lot of fun there arguing and debating back and forth. It was fun. So, this is just a continuation of that. Doc's the homie, and cool guy. And, this is all, we're arguing and going back and forth about somebody else's piece of plastic, y'all. All right, don't get too worked up about it. Anyway. But people like my homie Doc, they're either intentionally trying to spin the events here or they don't understand it. What events am I talking about? That is the events of PlayStation gamers in a celebratory fashion, focusing on the Xbox games coming to PlayStation. Number one, there's been a console war going on. There's a war outside, like the infamous Mobb Deep said. There's been a console war going on forever, and you putting your games on the competing platforms console is like waving the white flag and them marching you onto their trucks. So in this video, I don't even think let's remember this. 325. In this video, I don't even show the chart. I may reference it, but I don't even show the chart. Because I'm referencing, my main thesis is you are sitting here talking about people, or part of Doc's argument along with PlayStation is doomed to take you off to prison. Part of his argument has been, right, that PlayStation gamers, of course they're going to parade that around. But the bigger thing is, let's address the 500-pound elephant in the room, and that is, are PlayStation gamers excited to try these games out? And I would say, I think a lot of them are. They're actually excited to try them out. But does that mean that because they're excited to try them out, they don't like their own content? Absolutely not. Let me give you an example. McDonald's and Burger King. So I'm going to give the McDonald's and Burger King analysis, but Doc has made this argument as well. He made it again in one of his recent videos where he is addressing me, where he said, let's be honest, y'all like Xbox games more than PlayStation. He said that. So that was part of his argument too. He's had multiple arguments where it's about PlayStation gamers liking Xbox games more than PlayStation games. This part that I'm about to bring up addresses that. And then I also reference at the beginning our interaction, because I bring it on home in regards to the whole financial bit in the business part and saying that PlayStation is doomed. It's all evident and out there and correlates. And if you have a brain that is not as smooth as a baby rattle, it's not that complicated to understand and follow. As we all know, McDonald's is a way bigger fast food chain than Burger King. Right. So normally you want to go home, get something fast on the way, you're going to McDonald's. But there's probably been a time or two where you're like, you know what? I don't mind switching it up. Let me try Burger King. Ain't no Burger King around you. Especially if you're here in Pittsburgh. Like there's like a McDonald's every corner. There's probably like 3 Burger Kings in the whole county. You know what I'm saying? So I would have to go far out to one of those crazy sparsed out Burger King locations and probably wait forever because there's only 3 of them, right? And it's not going to be the greatest experience. By the time I get home with my food, it's going to be cold. Like, what's the point, right? So I just continue like, oh, well, McDonald's is the best place. McDonald's is the most available. This is where I'm going to go. But I wouldn't mind trying a Whopper every now and again. And let's just say one day you walk into McDonald's and the Whopper is there. You don't think that the Whopper being sold at McDonald's wouldn't have a concentrated time of excitement and high sales? Every now and again, it might even outsell the Big Mac. Because people are like, you know what? I've always wanted to try the Whopper. I mean, I prefer McDonald's, but I've always wanted to try the Whopper. Let's try something new. Then once they get over that brand new smell and they realize what the Whopper's all about, guess where they go back to? The Big Mac, right? All this is the anomaly of Xbox games coming over to, hold on, who is PlayStation? And people are like, what? We got Xbox games here. Now, some of those Xbox games did look cool. Like, I did want to play Halo. I did, but I wasn't buying a whole new console for it. Like with Burger King in that scenario, I always did want to try Burger King, but I'm not driving 30, 45 minutes to a Burger King when I got a McDonald's everywhere I turn every 5 minutes away. I'm just going to go to McDonald's. PlayStation routinely gives you more, whether it's their first party, second party, or third party. They're more in tune to the average gamer. Some Microsoft or some Xbox games do look interesting, but they don't look interesting enough for you to buy the console. But now that I ain't got to go out to your store, you're bringing it to my store, why not give it a try? And it will get a concentrated time of attention. That's all this is. Xbox gamers who are now, who think they have an extra life now in the console war, let me just tell you, it's over. It's over. You trying this PlayStation is dead movement. Days like today were Ninja Gaiden Black. Okay, so here we go. So I talked about the anticipation part of it because there's multiple parts to his arguments. And I want to show you how smooth brain these people are. Oh my God. Wait till I just responded to something. This is ridiculous. I'm going to bed after this. This is crazy. Why did I even waste? Now I feel like a dumbass for even wasting my time with. Now I'm getting angry. I feel like a dumbass because I feel like that I'm chasing a whack-a-mole here because it's like, look over there, look over there, look, okay, I can't argue this over here. I got to look over here, look over there. Now I'm getting agitated. Again, let's see the transition. It's over. You trying this PlayStation is dead movement. All who think they have an extra life now in the console war, let me enough for you to buy the console. But now that I ain't got to go out to your store, you're bringing it to my store, why not give it a try? And it will get a concentrated time of attention. That's all this is. Xbox gamers who are now, who think they have an extra life now in the console war, let me just tell you, it's over. Okay, so up until the 702 point, that's where I talk about the anticipation part. That's one part of the argument. That PlayStation gamers anticipate Xbox games more than they anticipate PlayStation games. I addressed that part. Now we're going to correlate the PlayStation is dead part to the financials. Here we go. It's over. You trying this PlayStation is dead movement. Days like today were Ninja Gaiden Black, an Xbox 360 exclusive. You're losing 360 exclusives now. You're publishing games like Ninja Gaiden and they're day and date PlayStation 5. Like, stop it. The battle is over. It's over. It'd be one thing if you guys just were like focused on PlayStation. It was like, I have PlayStation, I have PlayStation. But you're actually trying to pin Xbox in a competitive way against PlayStation, right? Let me show you guys something. I don't know who competitive. When we talk about competition, what are we talking about? We're talking about competitive in the market and how PlayStation is a competitor to Xbox. They're only a competitor in the Sarah Bond section. And guess what? This section is falling off the cliff. This section they don't compete in because they're not trying to be PlayStation's not trying to be a publisher. They'll be more than welcome in this section, and they'll go fooey to this section. This is why Sarah Barron went to the content creator and told the content creator, oh no, Wukong is about this. That's why Sarah Barron is likely the one that went to these different publications, that went to Paul Tassi and Eurogamer and these strange entities, Digital Foundry, and told them that it was because of a secret deal. Why? Because the whole Wukong thing screwed her. That's why it was reported she was vocal on this. Right? It screwed her. Xbox's or PlayStation's nemesis is Sarah Barron. It's not Matt Booty and Phil Spencer, because the activity of Matt Booty and Phil Spencer do not bump heads with what PlayStation is trying to do. Xbox is just trying to publish games. Phil Spencer spoke to it. All they care about is that Sarah Barron is not successful in her stint to try to create a platform that can compete with PlayStation. You don't create a strong platform that competes with PlayStation when these games that used to be exclusive for you to give you some power go elsewhere. That defeats the purpose. So now I'm bringing it on home and I'm addressing the PlayStation is dead argument here in the financial parts by saying this. Whose sock account this is, right? But I thought this was extremely interesting to see this, right? Let me see here. Let me go to my replies. Oh, yeah, here we go. All right. So I'm going to show this and then we're going to get out of here. I was talking about Nib's comment and responded to it and said, this is my point exactly. The Xbox could have had strong showcasing or a strong placement retail wise, at least for the console gamers. And so I don't know whose sock account this is. This is somebody's sock account that doesn't want to show them strong placement retail wise. What is that? Financials. He's saying, Doc is saying, when you were addressing me in your first video, which I wasn't even addressing you in this video. I was addressing the point where I address you specifically begins in NRO podcast, but I address some of the points that you make along with others. And I did make reference to that earlier in the video, but I was addressing the point with the listeners. Me addressing that point with the listeners started off talking about anticipation and is now transitioned to your argument that PlayStation is dead. You have not made the PlayStation is dead argument? Yes. Am I not correlating that to the financials? Yes. So why are you saying this here? You see what I'm saying? Why are you saying this here? We caught you red-handed. You're saying, again, you're talking about money. Your tweet was talking about money. Your first video to me was not talking about money. Number one, it wasn't to you. And number two, in the video, I am talking about money. We're talking about money here. Continue. Sounds like a coward. Anyway, they said, laugh my ass off. What games does Sony have this year? Xbox feeding that malnourished PlayStation 4 prolapse console so it does die, right? and immediately, because the hubris in these people is astounding, and it just triggers something in my head. I said, they have your games. There's nothing else need to be said. Your favorite box, dongle, whatever the F it is this month, lacks so much confidence in sales out of their pipsqueak lemonade stand, Xbox Marketplace. Them MFers come running to Saks Fifth Avenue, PlayStation Marketplace, to push their units. Embarrassing. I don't even need to play anymore. Y'all tell me, I mean, am I kooky? Have I lost it? Or is somebody trying to play hacky sack with the point here and kick it all over the place? Y'all tell me. So here's what I'm going to say, because I feel idiotic and now I'm agitated. I'm sitting up here at 3:40 in the morning even addressing this. And I want to show you, and this is the goofy shit I got to deal with. I'm tired and I'm upset and I'm agitated, and I goddamn Doc Dark, it's all his fault. I'm not addressing him no more unless we debate. But motherfuckers like this, they're goofy. They're goofy. So they zapped the fun out of this. So here's what I did. Let me show you guys the whole thing, and then I got to go to bed. I got to get up in 4 hours. This dude, Nerds of Another Legend. He says, I never heard of MM2K Game Network, where he's tweeting our network account where we just repost videos. He's not even tweeting me directly. But when Doc Dark warns you about looking stupid, don't ignore that. Doc is surgical with his clarity of thinking, and you will look stupid. Okay, so Doc was sitting there fucking around with people that were like, Doc, MM2K cooked you. So I said, I'll return the favor. I'll fuck around with one of his listeners and we'll see. You know what I'm saying? We'll see what he does, right? So I says, now, what was surgical, my friend? Was it how he went from suggesting current and future Xbox games are slave/killing PlayStation? Or how he got y'all believing that Sony wants to mimic a business model from Nintendo that makes 1/3 of the revenue they do now? He says, Doc's point was very clear. I have no freaking clue what you're talking about. You were all over the place. I couldn't tell if you were just triggered by Xbox saving Sony or what. Arguing in circles with arguments nobody was making, even now with this tweet. I'm not even going to address that pinpoint because I say it right here. I say, hold on. Hold on. Where's my response to him? I said, hold on. You're telling me that Doc spent 2 hours on a 30-minute response from me that was all over the place? Like, I see why Logic escapes his fan base and y'all actually fall for this stuff. This, along with your inability to elaborate, told me all I needed. Good day, friend, right? So Doc says, anyways, I think it was actually a good conversation. I said, look, I'm going live or whatever. I'm going to address this live. But there was another part of this conversation from this dude. Hold on. Can I find it? Let me look for it. Oh, yeah. He says Doc's point was very clear. Okay, so then that was my response is Doc's was very clear and I was all over the place. You're trying to tell me I'm all over the place. I was all over the place for 30 minutes, but Doc had to respond to an all over the place video for 2 hours. Like, stop it. You're not logically making sense. And I said, he says, this is just a tangent. Then he goes on and say, this is just a tangent because you brought it up. But if Sony makes $200 but keeps $8 and Nintendo makes $100 but keeps $40, who is in the better position? Now, I want you guys to listen to this and listen to his response and understand why I'm done with this. I'm done with this. Tell me if it's too wordy or if it's too, sometimes this can be too much for people. But sometimes you can't explain this like Cat in the Hat. I can't go, money in the bag, not on the rag. Give me a tag. I can't do that. You have to use big words sometimes. So I said, the company that can raise more capital and has more value, because he asked me who was in the better position. I say, okay, so then I tell him, he asked who's in the better position. The company that can raise more capital and has more value. Now I start to break down who that is. Nintendo wields a higher margin of business, but the business has a lower ceiling of increase, hence why Sony stock is higher and they have a higher market evaluation. So in other words, yes, Nintendo in that scenario, Nintendo may keep more of their $100 than Sony keeps of their $200, but because so many things go into this and Sony has a higher ceiling to make money, they're valued more in the market because they have a larger footprint as far as revenue, as far as capital that they can grow and so forth. So they are in the better position. But again, when you're dealing with smooth brain people, oh, and I follow up with, once you're publicly traded, and I try to explain it even further, unprompted. I say, once you're publicly traded, it's all about the attractiveness to the investors in order to raise capital. It's different game than publicly traded companies. It's a different game. I meant to say it's a different game for public traded companies. I'm sorry. I don't think I got an answer. Legit question. Who do you think is in the best? Bruh. Let me go back to the other one. The company that can raise more capital and has more value. Nintendo wields a higher margin of business, but the business has a lower ceiling of increase. Hence why Sony stock is higher. So I say, who can raise more value, who can raise more capital and has more value? Sony stock is higher. And they have a higher market evaluation. Oh God. I feel like a dumbass. I could have watched like 4 or 5 episodes of Walking Dead. I'm on World Beyond, by the way. Instead of addressing this is getting pathetic. Why am I even here? I love you guys, but why am I even here? Shout out, we got Lionel in the house. He said, bruh, Doc is super slow, laugh my ass off. He says, why you arguing? Bruh, Lionel, I don't know, man. Like, my wife is mad at me now because we supposed to be cuddled up in the bed. I snuck out of the bed. Because here's my problem. Lionel, here's my problem. I have a problem when people contextually state what I'm saying incorrectly. And especially when I feel like people are doing it on purpose. It triggers me and I gotta immediately respond. Especially when I think that what I said was simple enough to understand. Like I just showed you, Lionel. This is what the fuck I'm dealing with now, man. Bro asked me, he says, who is in the better position? I tell him, it's the company that can raise more capital and has more value. I say, look, to your point, Nintendo wields a higher margin, but it's the business that has Nintendo's business has a lower ceiling of increase. Hence why Sony's stock is higher and they have a higher market value. All you got to use is context clues. I'm using the terms higher with Sony. The answer is Sony. The fuck are you talking about? These are the smooth brain Mensa candidates I got to deal with this shit. I'm tired of this shit, man. He said, I tried to explain it to him, but he ran. He said, eventually Sony will surpass Nintendo. And yeah, look, bro. Sony used to be in double-digit margins too. And like you said, when they were in their double-digit margins, they had more profit but they are in a higher cost business. So because they're in a higher cost business and the cost of goods and everything are skyrocketing and they still haven't plateaued, chips are still expensive and a whole bunch that hasn't been fully resolved. They make games is expensive. That hasn't been fully resolved. That may not ever get fully resolved, but they can handle that as long as the price of goods go down and the yen stabilizes. They got a trifecta. The yen is not stabilized. The cost of the more expensive goods is skyrocketed, and the cost of expensive games are skyrocketing too. So they're getting hit with a triple whammy. It's like you said, it's unstable right now, the margins. Once they stabilize, because this is a temporary thing, they'll go back to having higher net margins in total than PlayStation. Than Nintendo. But even with higher margins, Nintendo's stock price is lower. Why? Because when it comes to the market, they care about the total revenue that's being made. That gives you wider footprint. That gives you more capital that you can raise. So many other things. Your compound annual growth rate on new initiatives can increase because you have a bigger footprint. There's so many things that go into this market wise. So yes, to your point, Lionel, Sony, once they get out of this temporary situation, they will have higher margins again, higher net margins. Nintendo will always have a higher percentage. They've always had a higher percentage, but because PlayStation brings in more revenue, when you combine that percentage with the money, they end up with more money as profit. They'll get back there again. Like I said, they're not in quicksand. They've stepped into some tar, to a small puddle of tar. It's inconvenience. They got to get out of it. They got to work around it. There's going to be some financial heartache to it too, but they're not about to die. So if you're asking me who I would rather invest in, if I'm in a bull market, and if I'm just trying to get a quick buck, which most investors don't do, they invest in the long term. They do bear investing. If I'm doing bull investing and I'm like, oh, okay, I just want to drop my money on something and see if I can get if I can make 30% profit in 3 months. Okay, maybe it is Nintendo. But for those that make long-term investments, for long-term capital and wealth, those type of investors that drive the market, you're going to invest in PlayStation before you invest in Nintendo. And we know that because their stock is higher, which means they're more valuable. That's why their stock is higher. But these smooth brain motherfuckers, Lionel, and I'm not calling Doc smooth brain. His listeners are smooth brain, and he's taking advantage of that. My only concern is that someone who isn't smooth brain, that hears all the convincing fluffle from Doc and see him in his tantalizing, alluring tank top, like, this guy must know what he's talking about. And how dare this MM2K guy say this when he's not conveying what I'm saying properly? Not at all. And he can get away with that with his audience. Just look at them. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just tired of this shit. Let me see if he responds. Did he ever respond? No, he doesn't. He probably knows I'm talking about him. Whatever. Lionel says Sony has been in a better position because Microsoft needs Sony. Yeah, they need Sony to sell their games. Lionel, it's not hard to understand. Here's what's going on, Lionel. And then I'm going to get out of here. People are upset that these Xbox games are on PlayStation. And they know PlayStation's argument chips is going to be, we got your games hostage, and they're going to parade them around like POWs. So that side that's anti-PlayStation, they're trying to find an argument that is cohesive enough to the community to where they flip it on them and say, well, actually, you don't want to celebrate that. And this is them trying it again. I've been smacking it every which way. And so Doc has resigned to, well, in your video where you were addressing me, where I wasn't addressing you. I made a quick video from work talking to the listeners because I couldn't do a regular video because I had to go into work. I did a quick video addressing our interaction in totality. because there's a whole thread, I believe, where we talk about all of his little points and stuff like that. And I'm addressing everything and I'm not just addressing him. I used him as a placeholder to say, hey, look, I had this interaction and these are one of the people that are saying PlayStation is going to die. These are one of the people that are saying Xbox gamers are excited for Xbox games more than PlayStation games. I was addressing multiple points and I wasn't addressing him. Here's the crazy thing, Lionel. When I address him, and man, did I address him, is during NRO podcast, that first hour and 15 minutes of NRO podcast, until Cold Blood pretty much tapped me and said, okay, it's time to move on. I really addressed him then. He didn't listen to that all of a sudden, right? He doesn't listen to that. He goes to the video where I am just talking to the audience. I first talk about something that is addressing the mood and the excitement that wasn't so much financial, but then I bring it all home when I talk about financial as it relates to the other thing that he was saying, that PlayStation gamers or PlayStation is in trouble. But he missed that part somehow, and I'm not watching his. I'm not watching that. It doesn't correlate. It doesn't make any sense. And he has to debate me now because he doesn't understand that Sony rather just sell third. But yeah, that's the business. That's the business. I don't understand. All right, I don't understand how he doesn't understand. All right, I'm going to bed. I'm gonna deal with my angry wife because she's probably gonna kick the shit out of me. Just so you know, I promise you, I am not addressing this again. I guarantee I don't give a crap fuck what fuck gets put out there. I'm not addressing Doc again directly until Doc agrees to a debate. When Doc agrees to a debate, he can go listen to all the content in totality and say, or if he doesn't want to have a full-fledged debate, but he wants to have a discussion, if he wants to have a fire chat, whatever he wants to do, we can address it then. But shout out to Doc. I don't blame him for this. I blame his smooth brain listeners for just being so dumb, falling for the okie doke. Like, how dumb, and how I think it's part dumb and part wishful thinking. Oh man, I wish. Stupid. And again, to bow out of this gracefully, now it's about, well, you didn't address this in this video where you were addressing me. I wasn't addressing you. I just find it funny that the video where I first addressed you, you didn't pay attention to that. You choose this one. Like, stop, man. Stop, bro. I'm done with this. Shout out to Doc. Go follow my brother's channel. Go subscribe, become a member, all that great stuff. He has great entertaining content. All I'm going to say to his smooth brain ass listeners, his bowling ball brain listeners, well, come around here. Well, do you like True Virgil and Jay Gaming? All right, I'm done addressing this until my brother, hashtag debate me. With that said, I appreciate everybody. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful gaming day. Now I'm going to go and let my wife kick my ass. Hold on. Phil Bosch says, salute everybody. It's late as hell. I know, bro. I can't sleep tuning in. Doc bugging, by the way. Laugh all out, but I respect the craft. Yeah, man, I don't. No, I know what Doc's doing, and I'm not so worked up about Doc. I know what he's doing. I explained what he was doing. I don't have a problem with what he's doing. It's just that if you convey what I'm saying incorrectly, I'm going to correct the record. My problem now is that, and it's not like they're even bothering me. I'm gonna be honest with you. You wanna know what the problem is? not only Lionel is it in Bosch, not only is it that I don't like when people convey what I say wrong, I got to address it. But stupidity, it irks me. It irritates the fuck out of me. I ain't gonna front. I try to hold it in so I don't seem arrogant. Because I'm not an arrogant person, but I am agitated. When people say, like, people that know me in real life, when you say something stupid that I know you're more capable of understanding, I just usually walk away. I don't even respond. And like my wife knows me, she'll say, "Oh, I must have said something stupid, huh?" And I'll be like, no, you didn't. You know, because I don't want to come off as arrogant. But when you say something stupid that doesn't make any sense, that you just didn't think about at all, it irritates me. And what Doc is doing is he's playing a game. He's playing a game. So I know what Doc is doing. But just because he's playing that game, it doesn't mean that you have to be susceptible to it. And the fact that I see people actually coming to me and being susceptible to it, even though the people that are coming to me are minimum, it irks me. That's a pet peeve of mine, and that's an Achilles heel of mine. Even just one stupid response irks me. Because it's like, how can you be that fucking stupid? How can you be that brainless to not be able to think for yourself, regardless if you like the person that you're listening to? Why can't you sit there and separately think for yourself and say, hold on, but this part doesn't add up? And I originally thought that it was people that just were not going to side with what I was saying, because they're looking at it as picking a side. Like even Devil Shooter fucks around and says, look, I'm team MM2K. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking it's just people, because Lionel, you've been doing this. You've been around here longer than I've been here too. You've been fucking with the crumb side longer than me, bro. You know. It don't matter who wins the debate. If you're team Xbox, you're going to boost up the Xbox person. If you're team PlayStation, you're going to boost up the PlayStation person. If it's close. If it ain't even close, then y'all might just go, ooh, snap, he got it. You know what I'm saying? You might just be silent, right? That's how it works. So I thought at first it was just Team Doc, which Team Doc is bigger than Team MM2K. So yeah, it's Team Doc coming out there and doing their thing, right? And so that's why I had a little bit of fun with this person, because I'm like, let me fuck with Team Doc a little bit. Let me just, because he was fucking with Team MM2K, which Lionel, Lionel was saying, no, MM got you on this one. So because he was fucking with you, Lionel, I said, well, let me go fuck with somebody on his side, right? And so that's why I text this dude, and now in me messaging him, I've gotten irritated, because it's not about him just being Team Doc and I can fuck with him. This dude literally is smooth brain. And so then it hit me while I'm doing this live, like, all these motherfuckers are smooth brain. And I've literally sat here and wasted 2 hours and 45 minutes putting my marriage at risk to address some smooth brain foolery. Some stuff that is for a bunch of smooth brain people. Yeah, Doc, is Doc stubborn? Yeah. Is Doc trying to run something? Yeah. But it's not Doc's fault if a bunch of stupid people want to take what's being said as gospel instead of thinking on their own. And when I just had this interaction here, y'all saw it in real time, I just got agitated. I don't think I got a legit answer. Like, bro, what? All right, I'm out of here. He says, yeah, people just be arguing to, even though they know they wrong, laugh out loud. Yeah, I've been around for a while, man. Yeah, I know you've been around a lot, Lionel. So when he was fucking with you, I said, yeah, let me go fuck with his, fuck with his side a little bit. And then that's when this whole thread started. And he was like, well, we're going to, I think this is a good discussion. I think the discussion is as good as to show why gaming consumers need to understand business more. Outside of that, I don't see the worth in it. I'm gonna be honest with you. And I'm not trying to be mean when I say that. When I say that, I mean, Yes, this is an example of when people don't understand the business and they become susceptible to hypotheses and theories that don't jive with the business. So you are not led astray, and so you understand what's going on. It's called your global or your business acumen. Increase your understanding of the business side so you understand what's going on. Because I always argue, and I have this back and forth with Cold Blood all the time, because Cold Blood tell me, "Ma, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares about the business." And I'm like, bro, if you don't care about the business, you're going to be whining and complaining about the wrong thing. I know this as a Fortune 500 former VP over managers that managed people. When we look at your consumer responses and you don't know what the fuck you're arguing about, we laugh. We sit there and say, these dummies don't get it. We're getting away with highway robbery. Continue. So you got to understand what's happening and why. So when you're sitting there trying to use your consumer voice to stop something from happening or persuade something to happen, you got to know what you're talking in favor of. Because when these companies hear you bring up stuff that don't correlate to anything, they just ignore you. They just ignore you and they just keep doing what they're doing. And goddamn it, as an Xbox gamer, don't you feel like you've been ignored enough? Don't you want to stop being ignored? Like at least the PlayStation gamers, they were in an uproar about Concord. Where the fuck is our second AAA genre defining game? This is it? Oh, hell no. They made PlayStation run to the stockades, start canceling shit. They send out multiple Dear John letters and shit. What is Xbox doing? Yeah, we're putting our games everywhere. And he looked at Destin with disgust. Well, Starfield, is there going to be a longer time frame for Starfield? No. No. You know, a little snarky Karen. No. Aren't y'all tired of getting ignored? You're getting ignored because you don't understand why these decisions are being made. So when we go from you just picking a side and you just arguing for your favorite side, which is we're just shooting shit and popping spit. When you go from that to totally just being ignorant to what's going on and why, I can't blame Doc. Doc has a channel to run and he's running it his way. I got to blame the listeners for being this fucking stupid. Yeah, I know you're smarter than that. They still running with it. Yeah, they're falling. Doc is creating content. It's all about how you engage with the content. Let me give you an example. That's why I said I'm not blaming Doc. I am holding Doc accountable for not conveying what I've been saying correctly. Oh, hell yeah, I'm holding his feet to the fire for that. But I don't blame Doc for this idiocy. Prime example, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. When that show was at its peak, I watched that every motherfucking day faithfully with some of the funniest shit. Stevie J, oh my God. But am I going to go outside and mimic these fucking crazy people? No, it's entertainment. It's not an instruction manual on how to live your life. So when these people look at what's purely entertaining and take it beyond the entertainment and act like it's an instruction manual and actually consume and digest this stuff and act on it, not just out of, I'm fucking, my side is fucking with your side, but no, this is really what's going on. When they do that, it is agitating for someone who has a couple of ridges in their brain. Just a couple. He said, I'm blaming Doc because he charming his audience. All right, y'all, I'm going to get out of here, man. It's 4:00 now, yeah. All right, y'all, appreciate y'all. Like I said, I'm not debating nobody about this. I ain't doing nothing. I'm done with this subject matter. I might create a video addressing the claims, but this is not catered to Doc. This is my last conversation where I'm spouting anything back to Doc. I'm done. Like I said, he misconveyed the purpose of my video because that's what he's trying to pivot on now. Even the homie, shout out to Devil Shooter. He's been another one that's been around here since day one. Even Devil Shooter caught it. And so I'm just correcting the record for those of you that might be confused because there's a little piece here, a little piece there, a little piece everywhere. You know what I'm saying? But no, I'm not responding until there's a debate. If there's a debate, great. If not, oh well, we move on. All right, with that said, I'm out of here. Y'all have a wonderful gaming day. Peace.